All right, good afternoon, everyone. Brian Fox from 18F. Thanks so much for joining this month's DevOps Community of Practice. And Happy New Year. Last time we met was back in November and December. So today we're looking forward to a presentation from Martin Wilbanks from the VA. It's going to be talking about Agile DevSecOps culture there. As we all know, any technical change management, it involves people, process, and technology, and oftentimes that people aspect, which involves organizational culture, can be the big one, right? And that's so critical for everyone involved, including leadership. Just as a reminder, though, before we kick off, that this meeting is being recorded. This will allow us to share that content out with colleagues in the near future. So we all get busy. Not everybody can attend a particular date and time. So this is great that folks can, despite being busy, can see this content in the near future, as well into the future. So if others are a year from now interested in what's going on over at the Financial Service Center at VA, they can go ahead and take a look at that. Let's see. Just a heads up. Next month we look forward to Blade from MIT. He's going to be joining us to talk about some research over there as far as change management. So looking forward to that, and more to come on that. I'll get that information out on Slack and in the listserv as soon as that's available. But next month is already teed up. And just a reminder about what we're all about. It's about sharing what's happening in DevOps across all of government. So this is really about sharing those technical and management lessons learned. This can include the successes as well as, those small failures or the things that an organization has learned along the way. Please put any questions into the chat. We'll be using that after Martin's presentation to really facilitate the Q&A. I'll be emceeing that for Martin. And so if you have any questions for Martin, even before we start the Q&A, just put it into that chat feature in Zoom. And then don't forget, there's an opportunity for discussion well after this. I like to keep this event pretty quick and pretty inexpensive for us as far as time goes. So use the listserv and use our public Slack channel to keep that conversation going. And again, I'll post the video as soon as possible, and we'll get it up on YouTube and share that out. And then last but not least, also just a request for presentations. If you've got something to share with the community, let me know. Just reach out to me, brian.fox@gsa.gov, and I'll put that into the chat for everyone. Otherwise, I think we are all set. Martin, are you all set on your end?
I'm all set. Can you hear me okay?
Sure can. It's over to you, sir.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. As Brian mentioned, my name is Martin Wilbanks. I'm the Chief of Development at the Financial Services Center in Austin, Texas. Just for those who are not familiar with it, the FSC is a franchise fund. We are part of the VA, although we do business for other federal agencies as well. Our IT organization does report up to the broader VA enterprise OIT organization. And as such, our policy is shaped by our VA policy, including their DevSecOps vision. We do have, as a franchise fund, some leeway in how we actually implement that vision to allow for the need of the franchise fund and our customers. Here's a high level of what I'll be discussing today. I'm not going to discuss why people should do DevSecOps or Agile. I'm assuming that if you are in this community practice, then you already believe that your organization will benefit from doing Agile and from implementing DevSecOps. Instead, I'm looking more at the cultural aspects of how you get there. I'm going to talk about some expectations, things you should know as you start out, how I approach motivating the stakeholders, putting together the team to actually do the work, getting us into an agile cadence for our delivery within the DevOps space, deploying our changes out to our organization. And I'm going to finalize by talking a little bit about how we accepted the outliers and some of the issues we've had. First, two quick items about expectations. Uh, Many years ago, I was actually in a conference up in Dallas, which is in the northern part of my state. And I was talking to an attendee and she was talking about, oh, I want to go see my sister. I'm going to take a quick trip to see her. I said, okay, well, where's your sister? She said Corpus Christi, which is in the far south. And so I sort of looked at her and said, okay, well, that's a 6-hour drive. And she just looked utterly stunned. Many of you, I shouldn't say that many of you, I will assume that like me, you've received a stack of PowerPoints and documents from various groups saying that they're going to come in and implement DevSecOps and Agile, and it's going to be quick and immediate, and magically they're going to transform your organization. Having done this, I can say that there is absolutely nothing quick or magical about my journey, and it was not immediate by any means. I think the best description actually that we had regarding this journey was provided by my boss, Mr. French, in our first DevOps increment planning. He showed this picture I have up in my slides, and he commented that in this picture you can sort of see the sea, and you can see some of the road that's sort of twisting all the way down there, but not the entire road. And he acknowledged that much like this picture, yes, we can't see the road, and right now in this meeting, we're not quite sure how we're going to get all the way to the sea, but he had confidence that this group would eventually find our way all the way to the end. Admittedly, we may take a wrong turn here or there, but we were going to do it. And he was right. We did eventually find our way down. It did just take some doing, and it took a commitment from leadership to actually be willing to accept the long haul. So as you go down this journey as well, just be sure that you're ready to take the full trip. It's not a quick drive. It's one of those long 6-hour paths. The second item is that as you go down this journey, you are going to have various issues come up. For me, in my organization, having a lot of IT folks working for me, a lot of their view of issues was, we can deal with it. Our chief has empowered me to address my issues, so I'm not going to worry, Mr. Wilbanks, about that. We'll find a way to make it work. As we started going down the DevSecOps route, a lot of those issues they had been dealing with in their old lot, that they've been dealing with sort of in the background, finally got pulled front and center. And culturally, we now had to start looking at these from a leadership level and addressing them. So as you go down as well, and you come up with some of these items that pop up, be aware it may not be something new. Some of those issues may have already been there, and it was something like my staff were doing, just something that was being handled in the background, not really on your radar. The big issue for my organization was work prioritization, dealing with how that was done and really addressing how we were going to do that moving forward. I want to talk a little bit about how we are motivating stakeholders. Most of the time when you're talking about changes, someone's always going to lose from the change. And the challenge as for leaders for implementing the change is getting those individuals who are going to lose out to actually make those sacrifices so that others in the organization will benefit. We're asking someone at the end to take one for the team. Now, I'm sure that many of you as my federal employees have really gotten what I refer to as the memo. It's one from the senior level executive within your leadership proclaiming that we're going to do SecOps, we are going to do Agile. And you could take that memo and you could walk it around the building and you can show it to all your folks and say, you need to do this because this memo says we must do it. But the good news for this change is that there's a better way. This transformation is, in fact, it's the only change I've ever been part of. I've been doing this for 20 plus years, where everyone in the organization really has the potential to come out ahead. I haven't seen anyone in my organization that really is losing out on implementing our Agile DevSecOps process. Really, everyone can really come out ahead, but it has to be done right to realize that. For example, I ask right now my product owners to come in and be an active participant when we do increment planning in DevSecOps, to come in, discuss their priorities, discuss what is the most important thing, what the values are, and help the team really understand what it is they need. Now that is us, I'm asking for an investment of their time. And for many of our product owners who are very senior up, that is not a small ask. But if the session is done right, then those product owners leave the session with a good understanding of where their budget is going and a solid understanding of the risk to their product line. And that is worth something to them. And you need to ensure, by ensuring that those product owners leave the session with those things they value, that motivates them more than any memo that I've seen written by any executive. And everyone just, if you haven't done it, really, we need to advocate it and we need to prove it to all of our staff that yes, this change will help you. Now, maybe in your organization, you may have some folks that believe that's beneath them. They're wrong, it's not beneath them. More likely, the pitfall you are having in this area is that you have folks in your organization like me. I look at the DevSecOps Agile and the benefits that I see to the organization, the needs, they're so blindingly obvious at times. I look at it and I say, what do you mean you're not interested? Why isn't everyone pushing to the front of the line? I'm automating your release process. How is this not something you're banging on my door to do? It just, people like me who are in IT, we look at this and it's like it's a blank space to us. We just don't see it. Well, the answer that I've given to myself and to those like me is that if you have a stakeholder out there that doesn't get it, that doesn't see the value, then you haven't done a good job explaining it. You have not taken the time to refine your message and the return on investment and tell the stakeholder, this is why we're doing it. This is the benefit to you. And that's something you need to do. Not, your stakeholder is not required to go out there and take you for your word. We as the leaders have the burden to go out and prove it to them that yes, this will benefit you. Next, we need to really look at putting together the team. You will need leadership commitment from this. I was lucky in this one. As a franchise fund, we do have some freedom to experiment with changes. And my boss, Mr. French, was not shy about supporting our work in this space. And the bigger VA, OINT senior leadership is also very firmly behind these changes. Not sure where you are inside your organizations. Oopsie. If you are not in the same place, and that is something you are going to talk to your senior leadership and make the case and explain why you're going to go forward it. After you have that, though, really the core of your team are the boots on the ground people. The resources assigned to carry out this transformation cannot be part-time resources. This is a full-time job. You'll need full-time people. And when you build your team up you'll need a broad cross-section of your IT roles. Business analysts, configuration managers, developers, sysadmins, security staff. Remember, SEC is short for security. We need to include them as well. You're looking for people as you are reaching out and you're looking for those roles, individuals that can carry some personal weight within your organization. And they're willing to put their name and reputations behind getting this effort moving forward. Otherwise, you're going to be dealing with additional resistance for change. Speaking in that line, you also need to really be looking for individuals that are inside, not outside. To get this to work, to really implement this effectively, you'll need individuals who have institutional knowledge of your organization. And that's something you cannot get from an outside group or outside contractor. Okay, once you have your team, the next sort of process we did was we established an Agile cadence for the work we did. Now, the work and the products we're producing were different. Normally, my organizations, we produce database, we produce codes, we produce websites. In this case, this team was producing different items. We were looking at stuff like producing modifications to oversight governance, how we align those tasks as well within the big VA OIT, our training, our playbooks. We're looking at modifying our tool stacks, bringing in new tools such as Jira or GitHub, and how those are incorporated into our process. And of course, process, how you use these new tools to automate your process, how you transform your organization from going from a view of where you're talking about projects to products and where those fall out. There are lots of items inside the flow that need to be changed, especially as you're moving towards product and you're looking at the entire fiscal year. One of the items we had to look at was how do we budget for our work when we're not doing a project for 6 months, but rather supporting a product for the full year. The good news is that while your products are different, the development process that you can use with Agile remains exactly the same. You start with something small, a pilot, an MVP. You roll through that project and you get it all the way into a production status. Now, I just want to say production status, I'm not talking about a PowerPoint that you're sending out to everyone. If you're like me, you have plenty of PowerPoints on DevSecOps and Agile. Adding a new one is not really helping. You're really looking for a change in one of those items in your governance, in your tool stack, in your process that you can deploy out to your IT group and start having your IT professionals use. You can look at that as a way of establishing proof of, yes, this process is valuable. Yes, this is providing benefit to our organization. Once you have that and you can start showing the value, then the next level up is looking at your product strategy and organizational goals. The VA currently has 7 of those for the FY21. We are currently working our way through. We know we are not going to do all of them, but the intent is to make value changes for certain features throughout all of them throughout the year. For the VA, as always, improving our ability to service our veterans is at the top of our list. We're focused on how DevSecOps will enable us to produce better solutions for our veterans faster and to roll those out to them. We're also looking at our metrics, our staff, streamlining our process to get work into the process faster, low code, no code solutions in our infrastructure. Once you have those strategies and those high level features, like anything else in Agile, you break them down. all of this work is extremely complex. It's, as I said, it's not easy. No one ever said it is. But in Agile, you take those complex items, you start breaking them down till you get to that feature that you can implement within the next 2 weeks and build those together for a suite of features you can do over a single increment, be it a 2-week sprint or 3-week sprint, however your sprints is doing. Another key concept as you're looking at this Agile is really listening to your customer. So big question is, who is the customer in this model? Well, the customer, my customer, is the IT staff that will be using our tools and our processes as part of their day-to-day work. Yes, my staff in this case is my customer. And I treat their feedback, and you need to treat their feedback like you would from any other customer. Because if your staff are not getting the work done and they're not able to use these tools, then it really doesn't work for you. Next, deploying the changes, getting your organizational changes out the door. Like in any IT process, the big risk item is always going to production. That's where things tend to break by surprise. You need to deploy your DevOps changes like other IT solutions. Do your end user training. Allow time to migrate to the new process. Not everyone has to immediately adopt DevSecOps, and they don't all have to do it at the same schedule. You can space it out, take the time so that it's an organized transition. Allow time for address any issues. Be sure to communicate your wins to the broader organization. At the VA, our DevSecOps team, we do town halls. Just earlier today, they had an open office hours. This was, we had 3 senior VA people, a associate direct, 2 associate directors and director actually took an hour of their day to sit down and answer questions about DevSecOps. And that really communicates a lot to our organization about their commitment, because let's face it, executives' most valuable asset is their time. Their willingness to do that really speaks volumes about where they're going to go. Last point is accepting the outlier. 2 quick stories about resistance to change when I was sort of on the other side of the table. Is about 12 years ago, first off, when I was a journeyman PM, I was in a meeting with an outside consultant, and I raised an issue, and the response was, well, you really don't understand project management. You're sort of at the crawling stage of knowing how to be a PM. Okay, kind of nice. 20 plus years ago, I was a green as avocado, sort of avocado green analyst. And I went to my boss with an issue, and his response was, you know what, Martin, you're the expert on your work. You tell me what this will do, what it will take to get this done. I'll leave you all to guess which one of those 2 people I really got behind coming out of that meeting. As you are making these changes, you are going to run into issues where the needs of the people on the ground don't align with the model or don't align with what you expect. And that's okay. Tailor it. Remember, in Agile, the Agile Manifesto says that we value the people over the process. What that means in this case is that we value the needs of our staff, the needs of the people with boots on the ground, over conforming to the Agile Manifesto or over any other white paper you have. Remember, those individuals are your customers. Respect them like your customers. Everything else on this road really flows downhill. Okay, I think I spoke a little long, but I think we still have some time.
Absolutely, Martin, and that's okay. It's wonderful. There's no questions yet, so I'm actually going to kick it off if you don't mind.
Okay.
Um, One of the interesting thing of DevOps, DevSecOps, it's really about integration, getting folks that have typically been working in various silos and likely thrown the work over the wall to be more integrated. But as you described early on in your presentation, it can be about with them, right? What's in it for me? As far as influencing folks, what's your experience with selling the concept of integration to security, IT operations, and development staff to kind of come together and work better together?
Well, the proof was in the pudding. The way that we did the first increment planning actually that FSC conducted was an increment planning for implementing DevSecOps. And when we brought security in, I think it was really the first time that we as an org that we brought in security and we made them an active participant in those features and how they were doing it. And the feedback we got from security is we really like being in the room. We like being able to make sure that our work is prioritized and put on the schedule and that we can advocate for this is what we need to do as security. This is how we secure your applications. And in the VA, that's a really big business. I deal a lot with sensitive data on our veterans, and it's critically #1 job is ensuring that that information stays secure. So having them in the room was a big win for us as an organization. Them coming out of that meeting saying, we want to stay integrated because it helps us, is how we got it done. For some of the other teams, as I said, most the folks I've dealt with, once we put them in the room and we give them an opportunity to directly interact with their peers, they don't want to go back. I've yet to have anyone come to me and say, Martin, you know what? I want to go back to my silo. I don't like having to see the big picture. I just put me back where I was. That just hasn't happened.
Absolutely. Hey, a question from Nigel from BLM. And Nigel, by the way, thanks for joining us. Nigel asks, how can CI/CD be implemented and adhere to separation of duties and the traditional control of production deployment?
Well, this is an area actually where I've spoken about the need to tailor the model a bit based off of where we are. Tailoring in this area for me has been sort of short-term, long-term, medium-term. We've looked at CI/CD and we've sorted out the process by modifying our process, automating it, and looking at the automation and saying, from a technical aspect, here's all the steps that need to be done to deploy to various aspects of our code. And using GitHub, et cetera, we've been able to automate that. And so the person who comes in can just kick it off. The barrier that you hit is as you go to production. There are certain things I'm sure all of y'all have to do where going to production requires additional review, additional security review, additional business reviews. All of that needs to factor in. Some of that you can shrink with automation, not all. For us, one of the things right now we have looked at is for our model, we are treating getting to pre-prod as the endpoint in terms of being able to march to frequently deploying. Instead of frequently deploying to production, we frequently deploy to pre-prod. And that is how we're tracking that, yes, we are making progress. Yes, we are making changes. Yes, they're getting out where our business can see them. And then we have a bit longer process to make that last deployment into production. It's one of those things we just have to tailor. We're still working out how we can further bake those in to automate and to allow for a faster deployment. Items such as really how we move those security scans further to the left so that my developers are able to look at their code while it's still in the development stage and say, would this pass our security review if it was reviewed right now today? Being able to move those over in is also now enabling us to more quickly get through that production hurdle, because we're not seeing a bunch of stuff at the end of the cycle. We're catching all of those security items up front. I could talk for like hours on this because it's something we've spent a tremendous amount of time at the VA working on, and I've spent a lot of time really working on how we are going to be able to get our items into production quickly without jeopardizing our veterans' data.
Absolutely. Martin, we're a little bit beyond the time box. Are you okay to hang on?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
If you don't mind, we'll keep going for another 10 minutes. We'll
Okay.
a little bit beyond here for questions that are coming in. Jim is asking, assuming DSO adoption follows standard Agile, how do we request an app be included in one of your program increments so that it can be deployed automatically?
Well, what we do inside the FSC is we are a franchise fund, so we have organizationally we do service level agreements. What we would do is we would take the application, we would look at it in terms of a product, and we would assign a product owner to it. And once you have that product, we then look at the code and we bake you into the existing pipe. My DDSO team has created the pipeline, they've created sort of all the hooks, and it becomes a matter of adding that app in. So we put the code in GitHub, we implement look at the regression test suite, load those regression tests into our automated regression test suite tool. So those will flow out doing those items on the technical level. The second aspect of that is we also establish a standing Scrum team. So there's a group of dedicated individuals who are assigned over the fiscal year to monitor a group of applications that are all very tightly aligned. For instance, I have a Scrum team. One of the items we handle is we handle revenue. When a veteran goes out to a private hospital and receives care under the VA Choice Act, those bills come into my office to be handled, come into the FSC to be handled. We have a Scrum team that is responsible for maintaining the apps that support that line of business to make sure that those bills get paid in a timely manner. Those individuals work over the fiscal year to make whatever changes are needed to the application, the sustainment, and the deployment of those. That's how that works.
Martin, that's awesome. Just right off, just want to talk about the impact you all are having. That's tremendous. Thank you all. Let's see, question from Jonah. Could you talk a bit about how the use of automation in your DevOps has been effective in proving the value to your stakeholders in terms of speed to deployment of new features and/or fewer errors?
My configuration manager, we have named Paul Urban. Actually, I tasked him with give me the numbers for what it took to deploy a solution to any environment in our old way versus the new way. So tell me the difference. And for our tools, our deployment cycle went from days to minutes. The cost of deployment to an application went from over $1,000 to about $40 per deployment. I post those numbers to everyone every chance I get, because there is no question, if you look at how many deployments you do, the amount of time you're taking, all of that money now that we were spending on just moving code from environment to environment is now budget we can repurpose to actually providing you new features. So as we look at those dollars and we look at it, This is another area where I spoke about the needing to prove to the stakeholders. As I take that information back to the stakeholders and I show them, you're now saving them money, these tasks that you used to have to wait for, you're no longer having to do. That's been a big benefit. The challenge, the pitfall that I discovered is that in many cases, my stakeholders were unaware of what that was, of what the old process was. It was sort of the case of being IT professionals, we'll just handle this. Our customer doesn't need to see how much work and effort we're doing behind the scenes to get themselves deployed. So there was a bit, some of our stakeholders are kind of surprised when they find that out. But they're all impressed when they actually look at, yeah, we're saving a lot of money. Regression testing, we're just starting. We're getting a lot more regression tests through, similar in terms of cost savings. We're saving a lot more money. We're having a lot better return on getting thorough testing by automating that tool. We looked at actually the return on investment for our CI/CD was if you do more than 3 deployments, getting yourself integrated will pay it. Will pay your bills.
Martin, that's excellent. Thanks for sharing that. There's not another question there. I'm going to tee one up just around security with the administration change, right? With the transition, we're hearing from the Biden administration on the frustrations and opportunities to improve from a cybersecurity standpoint, right? While we're all dependent, and no doubt veterans are dependent on the services VA is providing. It's critical for them. What's your thoughts as far as DevOps, DevSecOps in enabling improved security?
Well, security has always been really, really important to the FSC, especially to the areas I work with. My background within the VA is I started out handling healthcare data. And throughout my career, in fact, 20 plus years, all I've done is handle healthcare data until recently. So keeping data secure has always been sort of top of my personal to-do list. As we look through, and there is a bit of a conflict between the need of getting something out quickly and getting it out securely. When I look at security, I have to start off sort of with a moment of reality and clarity. In that I've always said, you cannot have hack-proof security. I've seen that a couple of times where people say we need to be hack-proof. Well, no such animal. I can't give you a unicorn. There's no way I can ever say that a solution is 100% hack-proof. That said, we do have an obligation to aggressively review our solutions and do it at every stage of our development and make our solutions as secure as possible. That doesn't change between administrations. That's a constant. Going through, we have individuals in the VA who are completely outside my organization, sort of a separation of duties issue. They are outside, that they will come through and they do white hat actions against our systems to try to hack into our systems, and they find vulnerabilities that even the people who we have some outside vendors who have supplied us with COTS product. The folks who did the COTS didn't even know these vulnerabilities were out there, but these additional VA folks found them. We are really looking, especially in the DevOps space, about doing more, as I said, to embed the scans and make scans part of the automated process. My code right now in the DevOps pipeline, our static security scans is embedded inside that release. So if you send your code forward and it has a critical or high vulnerability, it won't let you go forward. It will actually fail the deployment at that point, and you'll have to go back and fix that before it will let you go forward. So it's really about how you build that in.
Martin, thank you so much. Thanks for presenting and sharing today. For everyone that joined us, thank you for coming in and having some thoughtful questions. Thanks for those who were able to stay on a little bit longer. Again, we'll get this posted up as a video so you can share with colleagues and others that are interested in this methodology. But Martin, thank you again for coming in and sharing. And Martin and Jonah, any others in VA looking to share what they're doing on the DevOps front, DevSecOps front, just let us know. You can ping myself or Ken. Thank you. Yeah, thank you again. And Nigel from BLM, glad you could join us today. And anyway, thank you all. Have a wonderful afternoon.